Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me today, very special guest. Obviously, he's been a wrestler in AWA and WWF. He's been in a million different places. He is the son of the legendary Gene Kiniski. Nick Kiniski. Welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing?
Excellent. Thanks for having me on, John.
What is going on in your world? What are you up to?
Well, it's been a hectic world. I've been pretty fortunate with my life. I got to play football and wrestle at Simon Fraser University, and was on a Canadian national team, national champion. And then I graduated from there, geography minor, kinesiology. I got to professional wrestle for about 3 years, and I had a little falling out with Vince, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, and my friend was in the restaurant bar business. He was doing very well. I ended up buying a tavern in a place called Point Roberts, Washington, what's about a half hour outside of Vancouver, Canada, on the U.S. border. It's surrounded by water in Canada, so it's pretty unique. During COVID, you probably heard a lot about us. And then had that, and I was successful. I bought the bar across the street, so I was lucky. I had a lot of rock and roll bands on a busy night. Sometimes I get 5,000 people down. And I've
Wow.
had from Buckman Turner Overdrive, Trooper, Loverboy, a lot of big bands over the time. So that was very exciting going from the wrestling business, still show business. And then working in a small community, I became a fire chief. And at 50 years old, I went down to Seattle and they offered me a full ride with Seattle Fire Department, University of Washington, and became a medic, but also as a fire chief. And now I'm retired from that and I'm down to one bar. And hopefully it sells one day here soon. And I got a place in Palm Springs in Arizona. So I'm a snowbird. So I'm trying to stay fit. There's a saying, boys should work out, old boys must, and I must. So I'm pretty happy with my fitness. I've dropped some weight. I do the cold plunge. My bar's on the water, so I got an acre waterfront. So I just hop out there and jump into cold water, and just nice trails. I kind of run a couple miles a day and then hit the gym. So everything's pretty good. There's one thing though, you can't out exercise a diet. So, but I got that under control. So I'm pretty happy. Life's good. How about you?
Pretty good. Can't complain at all. I have heard that cold plunge is like the thing to do or a good thing to do.
Yeah, I hate being cold. But my college roommate, Bob Molly, he was a silver medalist, and he had two Grey Cup rings. We were roommates, and we wrestled together. Actually, I beat him for the national champion the first time, and he came and beat me. Anyway, he lost to Bruce Baumgartner, and he's a motivational speaker, and he's written a book, Learn to Be Comfortable Being Uncomfortable. So we always challenge each other. So the last thing was, let's lose some weight. Let's go out and get in the cold water. So he takes a cold shower. He says, "Damn, Nick," he says, I don't mind riding my bike for a couple hours. I don't mind hitting the gym hard and giving her all." But he says, getting in that cold shower, and so I just run out in the ocean there and get in there for 3 minutes. They say it's good, and at first I didn't think, oh, I gotta hate it, but I'm starting to enjoy it actually. I'm thinking about when I get off the podcast with you, I'm gonna jump in that ocean and have a little chill and kind of warm up in a shower, and it's very invigorating.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Now, as far as like wrestling, was that something that's pro wrestling, of course, was that something that you wanted to get into or almost had to get into because your dad's the legendary Gene Kiniski? Or no, you didn't want any part of it?
No, so I did. I knew from a little kid I wanted to wrestle. I just, but my dad said, going to university was just a thing of you can dig dishes, do whatever you want, but you're going to have a degree. And my brothers went to West Texas State and graduated. I went to Simon Fraser University up in uh, Vancouver, Canada. So, it was a horrible business, the wrestling business. I mean, my dad, obviously, he was the top at his time. I mean, people, you have to put it in perspective. He was, I believe, in '52. He was drafted by the uh, Los Angeles Rams to play, and they were world champions at the time. And I still have his contracts and paperwork. And they offered him $5,400 to play. He actually made more money playing for the Edmonton Eskimos up in Canada. But at the time, he was making $100,000 a year. So why would you wanna play pro football when you were making so much money wrestling? And that's why he chose to wrestle. And for years he is Canada's highest paid athlete. And then when I got into business, it was tough. I mean, many a nights I wrestled and do a 200-mile road trip and get paid $50. But it's things have changed over the years, but there's only so few of people who make it big. I think that, especially when I came in, Vince, had the WWF, and he put all these smaller promotions out of business, on which I give Vince credit for. He's a genius, a very smart businessman. But like, hey, I didn't get along with Vince, so I went to the AWA for a little bit. But there's no territories for it, so my career was done. There's no unions, no protection, no insurance. You were self-employed, so it was a pretty rough lifestyle. And my dad knew that, and you're never home, you beat your body up. It can be a party every night. He never wanted us to be wrestle, my brother or I, and he actually would do everything against us to. He didn't want us to wrestle, but when you've been raised around showbiz, that's all you know, and that's what I wanted, and I kind of, I've been very fortunate, with, I mean, I live on the water, got a beautiful place on the water. I got places in the mountains. I've done very well for myself. But there's part of me that I guess I'm a little jealous of Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, and those guys I started with, and I take my hat off to them. Some of them they paid a price, Bret with his stroke, Shawn with fighting some of his demons. I'm pretty lucky, So in the long run, it was kind of a blessing I got out of it. Same for my brother. I didn't, I still had two hip replacements. It was still hard on my body from the amateur career to the professional career. But I, my dad said, I haven't worked a day in my life, and if you enjoy what you do, he would say, and oh man, I enjoyed wrestling. I love the bar business, the rock and roll business, restaurant business. I love being a medic, fireman. I play pickleball now. That's kind of, I placed in the nationals. That's kind of working on that, and I'm always goal driven. But um, I mean, owning a business it's not easy. I had 120 employees, but I've had a great ride. I wish I could do it all over again. I maybe in the professional wrestling side of things, I think being an amateur, it probably hurt me, and being from my father, kind of old school. I didn't want to do too much showbiz, and I should have worked on my interviews too. Hindsight, what I know now is, but I laugh. I think, oh, what a great gimmick, Chief Kiniski, in my fire outfit and coming in. What a great baby face that would be now.
Yeah.
Everyone likes a fireman, right? You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good idea. I like that for sure. You know what's interesting about your dad, Gene Kiniski? And I remember years ago I had talked to Kelly about this. It's almost like Gene gets forgotten a little bit by some of the fans because he was between Thez and Dory Funk. Do you feel the same way that maybe he doesn't get the recognition he deserves, even though he was champ for almost 4 years and obviously NWA world champ? Do you think he's not getting as much recognition as he should?
Yeah, I think about that too, and I think, God, that they don't mention him much, but he kind of ran the NWA, the promoters, they blackballed him for a long time, and one of the reasons was for because he didn't want to be world champion anymore. They were screwing him on the payoffs, right? And um, he said no. He says, you either get someone, or I'm just going to drop the strap to the next guy. I'm done. And he had enough money saved up, and I mean, he had a plan. He had a promotion in Vancouver, so he was done being on the road. And my dad had a ethic, and he was tough too. But I mean, his hands would break out in rashes. He is sick, He'd keep going, and not taking things away from any of them, but man, when I got to WWF, those rings are so great. Some of those rings, my dad and I, you start out there like boxing rings. You hit them there like concrete. and for him, and he'd go 60 minutes every night. I was reading his book, uh, uh, um, and I forgot how much he traveled. Like holy cow, they would just go and go and go. And then he was in a WWF, and he started out there, and it wasn't very good. And the following week, he sold it out, and he looked at his payoff, and this is Vince Senior, not Junior. Didn't pay him very well, so he gave his notice and left the WWF. No, Gene, here we're sorry. Here's the extra $800. He said, "No, you screwed me once. It ain't never happen again," and left. And then he was wrestling Bruno Sammartino, and they were afraid my dad was going to beat Bruno up. And to be fair to Bruno, he had a hurt shoulder and wouldn't do the job for Bruno. But my dad said, hey, Bruno, this has nothing to do with you. I'll take care of business. Don't worry. I'm not going to mess with you." But when he went out, they went and put, 17 wrestlers all around the ring just so my dad wouldn't double cross Bruno as he's leaving, right? And so we never had my dad never had a good run with the WWF from that. He was kind of blackballed. And then I had a little disagreement with Vince, and but it kind of made me feel good. Vince picked up my dad at the Hall of Fame, and he goes, "Hey, how's Nick doing, Gene?" Dad said, "Oh no, he's doing really good." He goes, "Yeah, he was a prick in the ring just like you." That's so at least he remembered me. Kind of made me feel good.
Yeah, that's good. Nice. Like that.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it is interesting with your dad though. Like, okay, he beats Luthez. Obviously, that's gigantic. But then Dory Funk beats him, and they'll always remember Dory. And then like you said, like maybe he should be remembered even more than he is. Just the general feeling. It just seems like he should.
Yeah, I mean, he drew. I mean, he had huge drawing power, right? And that's why they wanted to keep him. And they wanted to pass the belt back to him. I guess the Funks um, he was champion. Didn't
The
get along. The
Briscoes,
two they
Jack
didn't get
Briscoe.
along, so they were gonna put Dad in intermediate there to do it. But I tell you, out of all the people though, like my dad, he was tough, right? My dad liked to fight with people, right? Not no fear of people, and no fear of dogs. He'd love to fight with dogs, right? Like who likes to fight with German shepherds? He didn't care, right?
Hmm.
Like something matter with him. But he says Nick, he says, I'd go to wrestle. He said I'd always eat at 3 in the afternoon, so I wouldn't get sick in the ring. He says, when I would wrestle Thez, he says, I'd eat at 2 o'clock. He says, he used to beat the shit out of me, Lou would. He says, I wasn't afraid of him, but he says, God damn, he says, would he beat me up, right? In
Yep.
good shape. But then Lou liked him. I guess my dad wasn't afraid of him. So Lou showed my dad a bunch of hooking moves, right? The wrist lock, that's where my dad got it through Lou. But they'd be at Christmas parties wrestling around on the floor, and Lou would headbutt my dad, split him open. The guys would be bleeding. Like, Jesus Christ, that's old school, right?
Yep.
But yeah, yeah. But my dad loved Lou, but he says, Nick, he says, probably the worst businessman I ever knew. He says he'd come in as world's champion, and when you left the building, you knew he was world's champion. There was nothing close. He just destroyed the guys. Well, who's going to pay money to come back and see you wrestle when it wasn't even close, right?
Yep.
He said that, and then my dad was a great. He loved to rib people and tease people, right? And so he would go and say, let's just say. Randy Savage was wrestling Lou, right? Say they're the same age or something, right? So my dad would go up to Lou and says, God damn, Lou, what's the matter with Randy? And Lou would say, what? He goes, well, he'd say, Randy was saying, you're an old man. You shouldn't be in the business. And what are you doing stepping in the ring? And you could just see Lou's eyes get, and he would just go out there and beat the shit out of guys. And guys are, please, Gene, don't say that. I never said that, right? Even when he was older, he
Yeah.
would, get to, just beat the hell out of guys. Yeah, I was lucky though. That was a world champion. So those guys, I was in a business for 3 years. It probably takes, you know, give what you catch on. A good athlete, but probably 5 years before you start to get polished. But I know probably one of the most enjoyable matches I had was with Harley Race. There was a tough guy, nice guy too. Harley treated me good, but yeah, he was a great guy.
Do you remember what territory you wrestled him in?
At WWF,
Oh, it was WWF. Okay, awesome.
yeah, he was in there, and
So
I
it's
had a
towards the
few.
end of his run.
Yeah, and Bret Hart there, but I was just I'd go in, would wrestle me, I'd tag out, and then towards the end, and there'd be a jobber in there, but he was good. Good, like to wrestle him, but I didn't get any long matches or single matches with him. So it yeah, it was a big part of my life. I miss it. Like I say, I'm a little jealous of those guys, but hindsight, I'm lucky, I guess,
When you go back, right, and you're thinking about wrestling, did your dad actually train you to get in wrestling, or was that something where somebody else trained you, but he kind of gets the credit for it no matter what, kind of thing?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, probably who helped me the most. I don't know if you remember a guy named Eric Froelich. He was a local guy from Vancouver, German, barefooted wrestler, great worker athlete, gymnast. And I put the ring in back of his house, and he helped me. My dad would just want to go and try to beat the shit out of me, but you're thinking like, hey, it's a work, like he didn't teach me anything. Then I started. So yeah, my brother helped me a little bit, but mostly Eric Froelich, and then when I was down in Texas there, we started working out in the ring there. But it just takes time, But like I say, probably helped me back my amateur career. I was always very fit, good shape. No one could ever blow me up. I mean, I was always amazed those guys, huge on steroids, right? And like just doing pull ups or going up the peg board, they couldn't do it. I could rip up there, and I'll never forget. I was wrestling. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Pardon me.
No problem.
I'll never forget Hercules Hernandez. I was wrestling him in Austin, Texas. And this was for when I was working for Fritz. And I believe it was Father's Day or Mother's Day. And he got in the ring and he was a little hungover, right? And I just beat the shit out of him. Not, not the hard way, but just wrestle him. And
Yeah.
he was puking. Please let me go under into the ring. I wouldn't let him go. No, I made him puke in front of the stands. He was mad at me, but hey, you want to drink and get in the ring and be a little hungover with me, let's go. So, yeah, I was always in good shape, and I could take care of myself with my amateur background, and yeah. So, like I say, I just wish I would have hung in there longer in a way, but it was a blessing in disguise for me to get out of the wrestling business.
So you were a bit of a shooter, like basically, if somebody, maybe gets a little testy with you, you could, because of your
Yeah.
background, you could just take them down and kind of do whatever you want.
Yeah, they were. I never had trouble in the ring with anyone. They didn't. Even the Japanese, I'd have a field day, go beat the hell out of them. I didn't care if I hurt them. They get a little cocky, right? I would go and they'd work out before we'd wrestle, and I was over in Japan. I'd go in the ring and go with them all, one after another, right? I didn't care shit. Some of those, and then we do like MMA. Some of those boxers were good. They had tapped me pretty good, but once I got them down, I'd beat the shit out. And then Fuji Worry was there, and we'd work out every day. I think I took him down 74 times to his zero, but
Wow.
he was good at hooking moves, so he showed me a lot, right? And I'd say, show me. He was good. He'd work with me. He wouldn't hurt me, right? Show me. And Chris Adams was there, and who else? Billy Jack Haynes was there, and all these guys were there. And they'd demonstrate holds on him, and they'd make him scream. They were mad at me, like, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" And he'd wink at me, but he'd work with it. Yeah, you beat the shit out of them. They work with you pretty good. You know what I mean? So, and then, yeah, even John Tenta. I wrestled John quite a few times. Amateur, beat him every time. He was a big boy. Yeah. and nice. He died too young, but really, I look at how many of my friends have passed away. It's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Were you on the Olympic team or were you almost
No,
on
I
the
was
Olympic
I
team?
was I was an alternate. So 80, and then 84, I got beat, and then no, I didn't go to the Olympics.
Hey, but still, obviously, to even get close, got to be pretty damn good.
Yeah. Well, it was. I had a hell of a run, so that was good. We had a good team. We had Bob Molly, a silver medalist. Uh, we had a couple silver medals, or bronze medals, and Olympic gold medals come out of our university. So that's pretty proud. So it was a pretty competitive school. You know.
When you actually jump into pro wrestling, what was your first territory? Was it world class for Fritz, or did you work
Yeah, it
somewhere else
was
before that?
Fritz. I think it was Hugo, Oklahoma, against Buck Zumhoff. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
Hugo. Yeah, that had to be around 80. God dang, that would have been 85, 84, 80 somewhere. So yeah, January 17th, 85, I believe. Yeah.
When you do go to world class, is that Kelly getting you in, or your
Yeah,
dad getting you in? Oh,
Kelly
Kelly got
got
you in.
in. Dad wouldn't even call and tell Fritz that I was coming, right? Or even Kelly was coming. Nah, do it on your own. Make them do it on their own. My dad was more of a hindrance than help in the wrestling business, right? He didn't want us in there. And I don't blame him. I wouldn't want my kid to be a professional wrestler. The lifestyle. I mean, I think it's changed now. They don't work as much as they do, and the guys who, even The Rock, his dad was all mad that he was getting in the business. I got to wrestle his old man a few times. Yeah, Rocky. Yeah, and wrestled for his grandma in Hawaii. Coming back from Japan, I used to do shots over there, and so, but yeah, and really, Kelly and I, we talk about this all the time. I lost my mom at a young age, and my parents got divorced when I was 12, and my mom committed suicide when I was 15. But from 12 on, Dad raised Kelly and I, and man, he was home every night with us, making sure I wasn't out drinking, partying. I had a curfew, had to kiss him goodnight, and make sure, I wasn't drunk, and even on weekends. And man, he wasn't out partying. He was at home, and he'd cook dinner for us and make our beds. And he and how can you become from being a world champion on the road, being that crazy, then coming back home and being such a homebody? It always amazed us. If I could have been half the father. I don't have any kids, but he was amazing how he changed gears like that. But I guess that's his upbringing, you know.
It's interesting though. Like Fritz probably knows your dad, right? But he won't even call him to help you at all to get in. So Kelly's got to do it. It seems like Fritz would probably know your dad pretty well and be like, "Oh, okay, we'll bring in Nick," but like, not the case.
Fritz was Fritz and my dad were best friends for a long time, and supposedly, when Fritz lost his first son that got electrocuted in a trailer, my dad had to help with the burial, and so they were good friends. And matter of fact, our first Labrador Retriever, I believe Fritz sent it to my dad, Alberta Babe, our first dog. I mean, they were best friends for a long time, and even Fritz wanted my dad to be his partner in there, and I don't know why my dad didn't or anything, but I mean they were real tight way back then. Yeah, my dad would say, "Hey Fritz, give my boys a push." Fritz would have, but he didn't want them, and I was too green to be in there. I was just starting out. I wouldn't have been ready for a push, there anyway. Went down for Fred Barron, but it's funny, my dad had a great sense of humor, and he's kind of a heel, but he always likes to tease and joke. So I'm out on. It's just not. It's nice weather here, so I'm out on my boat one time, and it's a nice boat, and foot boat, and we're cruising the San Juan Islands. And I said, "Hey, Dad, let's go to Rosario for lunch." And he goes, "Well, I'm buying." I go, "Hey, Dad, it's real expensive, right?" He didn't say anything, but I could just tell that, oh, you know, like he's tipped more than I ever made in my life, probably. You know, I could just tell he was mad. Oh, Big Shot son's got the big boat and the bars now. He's a
Uh,
superstar. I could see he was just, he didn't say anything, but I could tell he was pissed off at me, like, oh, I can't afford lunch, right? So anyway, we go to this place, Rosario in the San Juan Islands. I'll never forget. We have a club. Each have clubhouse sandwiches and two waters, right? He goes to the bathroom. I tell the waiter, give him a $380 bill. So we sit back down. The waiter comes up, gives him the bill, and he kind of does the periscope, you know, up and down, looking at it. And he goes, "How much is it?" And the waiter said, "Sir, the amount circled, $380." Now, no one else is in the place. My dad doesn't say a word. He always carried 5 grand cash with him. I don't know why. Because he said he was broke as a kid. It made him feel better. So he always had $5,000 in his wallet everywhere he went. So he doesn't say anything to me. He takes his wallet out. He starts popping those hundreds down, right? I'm just pissing myself laughing. I go, "You Mark, did you really?" He gave the guy a $50 tip because we got him so good. But yeah, he was a good guy. I mean, we used to go out when I was older. You know, he'd come watch me wrestle and amateur wrestle. Never, he wouldn't come watch me pro wrestle, and we'd go out for dinner or a few beers afterwards. And he was my father, but he was my best friend too. And luckily, in his later years, I got to take him down to Palm Springs, and he went to the University of Arizona. I mean, he just loved the heat, so I'd take him down to Palm Springs, and we'd hang out, and he had suntan, and he just loved it there. So I got to. He was so good raising me that I got to pay a little of that back to him, and after he passed away, I'm about half hour for the University of Tucson now. We got a house down in Green Valley, and I play pickleball down there. And sometimes I go to the University of Arizona basketball games, but I'm going to catch some football games too. He's alumni there.
nice, very cool. Love it. It like a special relationship. That's great. Did Kelly have a great relationship with you and your dad too, or not as much?
No, Kelly was more a mama's boy, and I don't say that in a bad way. I mean, I think I'm kind of a prick like my dad, you know, where Kelly's a little softer and nicer guy. You know, I'm easygoing, but I'm more like my dad. Kelly's more like my mother, which is probably a better trait. You know, like we're gonna go put someone over. Kelly, I ended up putting them over. Fuck them. Let's see what they can do. And I never they get mad at me because I was just starting out. I ain't putting these guys over. Let's see what happens. Like Kelly would just didn't want to do business. I ain't doing business with these guys. I think it was the Rock and Roll Express was all pissed off at me.
Hmm.
Oh well, that's the way it goes. You know, I didn't. I just hey, I paid my dues. I felt so. Yeah, but yeah. So I was a lot closer to my dad than Kelly was. But you know, he was away in college, and it was just my dad and me raised me. So he was. You know, what I don't understand is some people just have charisma. You know, I mean, obviously Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Harley Race, my dad. I mean, my dad can get along with anyone. You know, from the minister in the church to there, and he well liked. And just what he says and does sometimes is kind of crazy, but he just gets over. And what what creates that charisma? I don't know. Yeah, you know, it just always amazed me that certain people have this charisma, and it's
Yeah,
amazing. You know, I
yeah,
wish I could.
it's
I
weird.
mean, you know, what what makes that different? I mean, my dad, first of all, you know, he'd always tease me. What are you driving a Corvette for? What do you need a Mercedes for? What do you need this for? What do you need that? I said, "Hey, Dad, I'm not on TV every week. I need these toys."
It's funny, like the charisma thing, because you really don't know. It's undefinable almost. You don't really get it, but they have it.
Yeah, and I mean, even I went and when Ric Flair was doing a public speaking up here, I went and talked to him for a while. And little trivia: his father was a doctor, actually delivered me in Minnesota. Small
Wow.
world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just talking to Rick. I don't know. It just I mean, there's something about the world champions maybe make me miss my dad, and Rick's not as old as my dad, but it just their mannerisms, how they act, how they got that charisma, how they make you feel good about yourself, class act, and like you said, you had Hogan. He was, yeah. They just have charisma. I'm sure never met The Rock, but I'm sure obviously he does. John Cena, all these guys, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. What? How do you get that, or why? You know.
I feel
You know.
like Kerry Von Erich, speaking of world class, we're talking about world class. He had a ton of charisma. Did you get along with the Von Erich boys?
The I didn't really see him very much. You know what I mean? When Kelly and I would work out in the sportatorium, and they would come down, but Fritz didn't really want me working out, afraid they would get hurt, right? And so I didn't. I didn't. They were main events, and I was on the bottom of the card, preliminary. So I never got to wrestle with them or anything. But I mean, they were not so much Kevin, but Kerry and tho- those guys would drive separately. But and Mike, they were pretty messed up sometimes. It was kind of sad. I was in Corpus Christi, and Mike he had a few too many beers and fell down, hit his head. I thought he was dead. I didn't even want to go outside and look. The boys
Wow.
playing. So it was it's kind of sad. But when those boys were over, Kerry, they had bodies and
Yep.
go. But I don't know. It's sad, very very sad, sad. And then Fritz's wife and my mom were very good friends too. I mean, they go way back. You know, so I'm not. I would say hi to Kevin, but I'm not friends with Kevin. We weren't tight. Nothing was passed down as friendships or anything like that.
When you move on from world class and you basically go to Southwest, right, to Texas All Star Wrestling, you met a very young Shawn Michaels there, right? You were kind of, I guess, teaming with him a little bit down there.
Yeah, yeah. I started with what was his name, Paul.
Paul
There,
Diamond.
and then Paul Diamond, and then I got a shot at Portland. I came back, and we were the champs down there. Paul Diamond, then Shawn Michaels came in and took my spot, and I got to wrestle Shawn once, but mostly we were both baby faces. We had a great match. I blew his ass up. It was fun though. He did well. He was, yeah, young. Chavo Guerrero was there. Al McGrill. Who else was there? So that was my first break. I kind of got in the business, but I was still pretty green. And then, yeah, it was who was a promoter back there was he was a great guy. Sure treated me well.
Was
Fred
it still
Barron.
Joe Blanchard? Oh,
No,
okay.
no, Fred Barron. Now Joe Blanchard played football with my dad, right? And
Oh,
Joe was still he'd come into the matches and real good friends with my dad and joke around and Joe would say, Nick, he was an amateur wrestler. He says, I never caught on like your dad did. The amateur kind of hurts us sometimes. He says, he did good wrestling, but he said he just never caught on like Wilbur Snyder. Wilbur Snyder was a good friend of my dad too. I think Wilbur Snyder or uh, um, uh, Joe Blanchard, they all played football together. Pro football. I think for Edmonton or so. They're all good friends back in college days.
when you like look at it, right, and you're going from territory, like you said, Portland to back to Texas, and you go back to Portland. Are you making a lot of money, or like, are you happy, or you're like, I got to find something else? Like, are you satisfied with wrestling at that point?
No, I was looking like playing your dues. No, no, you're not making any money. I never made any money there. In the WWF, I got started getting some payoffs. Of Fritz, I got to wrestle. I think my first big payoff was over $1,000. Was by Fritz in the Texas Stadium. You know, and then WWF. But yeah, your expenses are so high, and no, it was still pretty rough. Vince was making a lot of money and not really paying the boys. I think Hogan was making big money, but there was no, it was, you know, there was people who wanted your job. So you had to do what you had to do. You didn't argue with the promoter.
How about the Pacific Northwest? Money out there or not? Not really.
No, I never came to my hometown. Well, I guess I did once with the WWF and wrestled, he was a WWF champion, babyface. Nice guy. There, DQ. But yeah, no, like I was only in it for 3 years, right? So I was just starting to, you know, come. I made some good money in Japan. That's where I made money. They liked me there. So they was there. I was in the mid card main event there. So they like tough guys. So it was fun.
Was it for
That's what.
Inoki?
Yeah, and so I would especially a lot of the shoot fighter guys were no high spots. You just get in there and wrestle and beat the hell out of each other. That was great. They pay us, and then my friend was a silver medalist, Date, and he coached at the university. So I'd go there and work out with the college kids too, and then wrestle at night. So yeah, it was. I loved it over there, but I liked their style, Japanese style. Yeah, treated you good, paid good. Um, yeah, so like shoulda, coulda, think about it. I wasn't smart back then. I think, old school from my dad probably hinders me. Uh, um, yeah, you know, uh, it's all. I think a lot's your work secondary to how are you on the mic. By talking. Doing good
Yep.
interviews. Yeah, yeah. Work is second. Uh, Higher you go up in a card, it seems easier it is to get the people to pop for you. You know. And yeah, I mean, you can
Sports
have
entertainment.
exactly. So what do you think of it?
I don't know. I'm more of an old school guy myself, just old school wrestling. But obviously, the promos and stuff, and the stories, the charisma of the guys, that kind of brings you in. But I do love the matches too. So I love some of the guys. Just interesting. I was just watching Dark Side of the Ring on Chris Colt, and I know you worked him a bunch. He was an interesting guy. Just like look at it, like character wise, like wow, this guy's really interesting. But he never really made it big.
Chris Cole, what a super guy he was, right? But that back then, I think he did pretty good. I mean, Chris Cole, I bet you didn't even weigh 200 pounds, did he?
No, he was
Just
small, real small. Yeah.
small, right? Small and but I used to wrestle with him in Portland, right? And um, God, he would we'd have some great matches, and he would stop and he'd have the tie dye shorts on and everything. He'd look at me and he would say something, right? And God, I kept cracking up, right? And he'd get in a dressing. Don't you laugh? What that is? You take this business and he just chew my ass, right? And then the next night he wouldn't tie up with me. He just stand there, he was ripping me, right? And just God, I just couldn't stop. But I would look at him, I couldn't help but start laughing, right? I'd bite my lip till it was bleeding so hard, but he used to mess with me all the time. But what a great worker. Yeah, great guy. Always treated me good. And for a small guy, he got over in some places good. Yeah. Super
Definitely.
guy.
Interesting character for sure, and an interesting
Yeah.
gimmick for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
look at, like, going to Hawaii and stuff too, and, working, like, more on the Pacific end here, on that side, what was, like, Rocky Johnson like? What was his grandmother, well, Rock's grandmother, I guess. What were they all like?
Um, I know Mrs. Peter Maeva, she treated me good and come back. I mean, we weren't drawn that good, and I didn't mind going over there. But hey, I got to lay out in the sun and get to fly over there, and stop off from Japan or wrestle in Portland and fly over there for a few days. it was good. They treated me excellent, and I remember Rocky Johnson, talking about his son, what he's going to do with him, and da da da, and go to the gym and everything, and obviously did it. I felt like his dad was pretty solid. You know, he was he lay him in pretty good. He's a big boy. Yeah, you're in the ring with him, but a great guy. Always treated me good with respect. You know, I think the guys know who they can push around and can't push around, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't take long for me to get in a few go arounds, with some of the guys, and I held my own. So word travels fast, and but
Who tested you? Who tried you?
well, we got in me and Tugboat. You remember him?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
we
of
we
course.
got to put him down, but we were good friends. I took him down. I had him. He knew I had him. Hit him in the head. I gave him a little love tap. Like, what are we doing? He's supposed to pick me up. We were wrestling in Odessa, Texas. He's supposed to pick me up at 2 in the afternoon. I leave at 4 and got to get a flight and fly there because he never showed, but he was just late getting there, driving like an idiot. And so I was pissed off. I had to fly out there rather than because you don't miss a shot, even though I was probably making $50, right?
Right.
And then one of I forget, he was a not Alpha or Sika, but um, I forget his name in Portland. We kind of kept getting him every time the guys would break it up. We'd go again. I'd get him every time, but the boys ended that one, and a few other times. I'd be working a lot of guys. Like, probably the easiest thing for me was getting a ring and wrestle. The travel and all the other shit. That was hard, right? But so heck, I'm there. Let's go have a good workout. But I mean, a lot of times it would go 15, 20 minute draw, and the guys would just quit, and I'd pin them, right? And I'd just blow them up, and what the promoter would be. I didn't hold them down, and the guys was too tired, So it was
It blew
fun,
up. Yep.
Yeah, just like, hey, let's give her, we're here. Let's get a good workout in. So um, the guys better be in good shape when they step in the ring, because you could be strong, but the fatigue makes cowards of us all, right?
Yes. Yep.
Uh,
Big time. Big time. Especially those
oh,
big muscle guys. They get tired
Oh,
easy.
even Kevin Kelly, my partner with Medusa, right? We're up there at Edmonton. I'm wrestling him, and he doesn't want to call the spots everything. So I just beat the shit out of him, not physically, just on blow him up so bad he can't even hit me, right? I think um, that's probably why they hired me, But yeah, I just played with him, right? Big, strong looking guy, but no endurance.
Good old nails. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, temper. He had a
Yeah.
temper. I could see him doing that to Vince. Yeah,
Oh, beating them up. Yeah.
yeah,
They said no more one-on-one meetings after that. There was always going to be somebody else in the room after that. They can't just leave, like nails alone with Vince. He'll get choked out.
yeah. What's happening with Vince? What's the latest thing going on there?
So they paused the case because the feds want to crack at him. So the feds think that they're going to dig up something. So the Janelle Grant case is paused, I think, for 6 months, but the feds want to take a shot at it. But I haven't heard anything as far as the latest as far as the feds go.
Yeah, he's got a lot of loyalty to him out there. A lot of people don't like him, but he's helped a lot of people. Like, I know Ric Flair and those people. You know,
Hmm.
so but yeah, he's not one of my favorite persons, but you can't knock success. But
Yep.
so it's a big hit to take now, that at his age and that wealthy, and in his career like that, is kind of sad.
Big time. Yep. Big black mark on that legacy for sure. How'd you get in WWF? Like, how did you actually get recruited in or get into WWF to begin with?
I don't know. I think they called me and said, "Hey, interest," and wanted to see me, and then put me on, and then they kept saying they're going to give me a big push. They're going to give me a big push, and they asked me to lose a couple pounds, 10 pounds. I did, And Rene Goulet, I'd wrestle with him. I did back suplex for a finish, and great, yeah, and nothing's happening. And then I'm in, um, getting harassed by Terry Garvin, sexually. He'd say, "Hey, come on, let me do this, and you'll have it made for the rest of your life." And Terry, I'm not that way. Well, you can read a Playboy. I go, no, sorry. I even had to throw him out of my room one night. Anyway, I'm wrestling in San Diego and in LA and staying in LA, and that's a big, $1,000, $1,500 payoff night. And they give me the night off. I still got the hotel rooms, and then they start and want me to do. I did a job for Randy, then they want me to do another job. And I said, Vince, I'll finish my things, but I'm not doing no more jobs on TV, And Randy Goulet come on. He says, Nick, I'm so sorry. He says, I don't know what happened. I would have never told you that. My word's my word. He says, I don't know. I don't know what happened. So I never forget. I said, no, Vince says you're done. And I remember I was in LA picking up my bags and said goodbye to all the boys. I can't believe you're leaving, but you know what? They can beat you, but they can't eat you. I said, you guys are pathetic. At least I can hold my fucking head up high and walk out of here with my pride. And went to back to the hotel, called my dad, say, hey, I'm flying in. He says, good for you, and that's, I don't regret that. I mean, you're not going to take my self-respect from me. You know.
Did you ever mention that to Vince or anybody up? Like, hey, it's Terry Garvin's. This guy's
Oh
basically
yeah.
harassing me here. Oh, you
Yeah.
did.
So I was in Portland, Oregon, and I called Vince to the office, right to the office and told him, and that's when it went downhill. You can't tell me Vince didn't know and all those guys know. It was common, right? It was common, you know.
Meaning Terry Garvin or other guys.
All the guy, all there's been scuttlebutt for years. You know about that. I can just personally say what happened to me, right?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Hey, I got nothing against that lifestyle. I'm just not that way, and like I don't have a problem with it. It's just it's not my cup of tea, but it's yeah, it was a big problem with Terry Garvin.
Especially
Mhm.
when they're saying, "Oh, I'll give you a push or you'll get deep pushed or whatever because of it." Obviously, it's a gigantic problem.
My biggest regret is, of hindsight, when Terry Garvin came in my bedroom, I wish I would have beat the fuck out of him. That would have been I wish I would have just kicked the shit out of him. And, hey, good publicity got out there, been done and moved on. Now I would have been sick, because how many people's lives did he mess with? I've been in there with, young kids calling, doing jobs. Well, Terry, you promised me if I did this, you would do this for me on the phone, right? And this is going back 30, 40 years ago, but I still remember it vivid, you know?
Yep.
And, I mean, even my business, the bar business, was coming from the wrestling business was out of hand. What's the HR, human resources? I wouldn't even know what that was. Back then I
Right.
didn't know. So, but that's how business was done back then. You know.
And obviously, Vince wasn't putting an end to it at that point either.
No, he grew up. He probably grew up how I grew up. Ethically, my dad was, you don't steal. If you say you're going to do what you do, you don't do drugs and stuff. But you want to be, if what two adults want to do is fine, right? You know. So, um, yeah, it's it's sad. As much as I dislike Vince for, I felt he had a lot to do with my career and he knew what was going on. I still, for so much he's done for wrestling, what a way to end your career. It's sad.
Yep.
But and who knows? Did he really help wrestling or did he hurt wrestling? With all these small territories that you used to have Texas, you'd have Florida, you'd have New York, you'd have Pacific where these guys could go and learn to work and then become stars, right? They didn't really have that. I went back to the AWA, and you just getting by there. If you didn't wrestle for Vince, you weren't going to make any money. You know, and I
Yeah.
still think, I hear like the merchandise was huge for these guys over the wrestling if their merchandise sold. But so
Yeah, it's crazy because if you think about it, like Ole Anderson's of the world was, he's rich. He's living down there in North Carolina. The Dusty's rich from Florida. All these guys, different territories. But then you get rid of all these territories, and only the Vince's guys are getting rich.
yeah, I mean, look at Ric Flair. How many times he went broke? It wasn't.
Yeah,
So I'm just glad for podcasts and everything. These guys can make money, not having to step in the ring. You know.
yeah. Any,
I'll tell you who treated me good was Jake the Snake. He was, my dad was a promoter and he was wrestling, and he always he treated me very well. And even when the WWF, I'd room with him and we'd have the Snake, we'd have fun with that, or I would. But if you ever see him, tell him I said hi and tell him that
will do.
I don't think my dad treated him very well. He was getting a little push there. Then my dad beat him two straight. But tell Jake I said hi, and yeah, he is very good to me. Another guy
Any,
was Adrian Adonis. I used to wrestle with him a lot in high school and stuff, and he was good to me. There's another one whose life ended too soon.
oh, way too soon. Yeah. Oh my God. Way, way too soon. Any other like positive experience in WWF or all negative? Because you're mentioning working in British Columbia, working Pedro Morales a little bit over
Yeah,
there.
yeah, Pedro Morales there. Oh, you're gonna do a job? No, I said I ain't doing one in my hometown, and he was really good. I guess my dad gave him a big push, and no, no, let's do a DQ, right? So he was good about that, but I wasn't going to come in my hometown and do a job. No thanks. Yeah. But so I wasn't the easiest going guy, right? But
Right.
let's, come on. I was a national champion. You're going to come here and, what difference does it make? I'll do it somewhere else. A good friend too was a Sheik. Oh my God, he was crazy. Iron Sheik. Used to wrestle him. I was in high school. I'd work out with him. He hurt his back. Um, I'll never forget. You want to hear store wild stuff, man? He's WWF, and it was his partner,
Nikolai
Volkov,
Volkov. Yep.
and he was super nice to me. He'd get on to me. What are you staying in that good hotel? Come and stay in Hotel 6. Save your money, kid. Right? I mean, he was very smart. Saved his money and not a partier, and just a nice man. He could hinny sound like a donkey, right? And he could whistle, right? He's funny, but let me tell you, there are not too many guys I would back down from, but I wouldn't want to piss that guy off. I was wrestling him. Sheik and I, we used to tag against him, have good matches, and damn, he went to press slam me, and I wasn't ready to go. It didn't matter. He picked me up. I was probably 270, 270. He picked me up over his head and press slam me. Holy shit. And I wasn't even ready to go, man. Well, just a naturally strong guy, right? But yeah, he's super, super nice guy. And then the Sheik, when he was in Vancouver, he never drank, never smoked. I've never seen this on an airplane before where I forget where we're flying to. I see him go and just sit up in first class, didn't even have a ticket there. And he orders Cavassier in first class. He's smoking dope and blowing it in a towel with a hash pipe and doing lines of cocaine and drinking Cavassier. Jesus Christ.
Huh?
I guess when Vince tested him, he says, Sheik, you're a positive for your drug test. He says, oh, see, Vince, me very good, very positive, me very good, very good. He doesn't understand that positive means not
Yeah,
not
not
so
good.
good. Yeah, but yeah, he was good, good, good guy. Yeah, and
As as we wind it down and head towards the finish, so you quit WWF. You call Vince, right? You say you've had enough. The Terry Garvin stuff. You had enough. You just quit, and then you go to AWA, and then basically wind it down.
then I partnered with Kevin Kelly, but he didn't want to work with me, and Medusa was my manager. and we had a lot of fun traveling there. And she's super gal. I just don't can't say enough nice things about Medusa. And she did good. And yeah, then I came back and didn't really know what I wanted to do. You know, when people clap for you, it's kind of hard to get a normal job. So that's why I guess I got in the bar business.
Yes, keep that showbiz lifestyle going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I like people. You know, I still like going out there and shooting the shit with people. You know, you ever get out this way?
No, I've never actually been that far out west.
Yeah. Wow. Well, make sure come out and see me. I'll buy you a beer. I got two pet
All
eagles I
right.
call and I feed them, and it's
Nice.
beautiful. Got whales out front. And, well, when it's nice here, it's one of the nicest spots in the world. And we're about a half hour from Vancouver, Canada. So, but 36 years I've been in the bar business. I'm going to start my 37th, and I
Wow.
think I'm done. Ready to retire and become a national champion in pickleball. That's my goal. So
I love that. Yeah, I
I,
love that.
I won a
Any
bronze. I won a bronze in pickleball. I was so excited. I had it. Actually, I won a gold and I had it bronzed. No, kidding. So
I love that though. Any regrets though, just as far as wrestling? Anything you wish you would have done, or is like, nah, I got out and not the best business in the world.
yeah, like I say, I'm jealous. You know, of Sean and Brett and those guys. You know, I wrestled with. I'm a little jealous. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. You know, I did the best I could at the time. I didn't understand the business. You know, we come where it's a legitimate business. You know, my dad was like a shooter. You know, I want to be a shooter. You know, I don't want to do the goofy shit. You know, midget high spots where it's so you know, no gimmick. You know, like, you know, being a fire chief, what a gimmick that would have been, right? Chief Kiniski, you know, like holy cow, have your bunker gear. You could have a strap match. You could have a hose match. You could have a ladder match. You know, like kids, sirens in a truck and wear your gear. Kids would go crazy. What a draw, right?
Yep.
You know, that's probably my biggest regret. How to do interviews, how to cut interviews. You know, I would have worked harder on that. And I guess they have professionals now, but it's you know, hindsight, right? You know, but once I do something, you know, I gave you know, I took it serious. I hit the gym hard. I was in good shape. I took it very serious, you know. I mean, even dressing, guys would get on to me because I always wear nice slacks and a nice shirt, and the WWF was getting pissed off because the guys would wear sweats. Well, we travel too much. Well, Kiniski dresses nice. How come you guys can't, right? And I was getting some heat over that, right? But you know, I tried, you know, and you know, it's you know, everything I do that you know, I wanted to be a wrestler. You know, I wanted to be in the bar business, and I wanted to be a paramedic, fireman, and those are probably the three things in my life, and I've done all three of them now. I want to be a national pickleball champion player. You know, not with the young
Yes.
kids. You know, I mean, oh, I can't wait till tomorrow though. You know, it's just I get better looking with age.
Well, do you do social media at all? Are you out there on social media? Where
Yeah,
people can find you and stuff?
yeah, on Facebook. Yeah, I mean, you know, the bar is called Kiniski's Reef. You can find me on Facebook. Also, learn to be uncomfortable being uncomfortable. Bob Molly, he's got a podcast, and I'm on a show some there, and you know, I'm just so busy. I would really like to, you know, start telling stories about the bar because over 36 years, I have so many stories about the bar business and restaurant business. And everyone thinks it's kind of you just stand around and talk to people, but there's so much more to it than that. You know, it's just like the wrestling business. But you know, like sometimes I can complain about business, and this customer told me, he says, Nick, if business was so easy, everyone would do it. And as you know, I'm
Yep.
sure you know the restaurant business is a tough business to be in, right? But
Yeah.
you know, to be fair, I don't make a lot of money in the restaurant business, but you know, I was number two in the state. I was doing like 12 million a year in gambling and keeping 20% of that. So I had about a 5 year run. So I've been going backwards ever since then, but that was a good run. You
Nice
know,
though. Nice. So everybody's got to check out the bar, and then hopefully you will be the national pickleball champion, Nick. So thank you
one
so
day.
much for all the time.
John, I would just want to thank you. You did a great job interviewing me, and may the best things in life that happened to me be the worst things that ever happened to you. And stay in
Awesome.
touch. And
Yes, you too.
you got a few beers coming.
All
Thank
right,
you.
awesome. Yep,
Can
thank
you
you so
stay?
much, Nick.
Can you stay on the line after not record?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.